Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good whatever time of day it is. Thank you for tuning in to Conversations with Dr. Don. For your first-time viewers out there, Conversations with Dr. Don is an ongoing series of 1-hour standalone talk shows where I interview interesting people like most of you out there about who they are as unique, one-of-a-kind individuals and about whatever it is that we have decided to talk about. And my two guests tonight have been on the show before, and who knows what we're going to talk about because it goes all over the place. They're wonderful, delightful guests. That's why they're repeaters. There's Joe Walsh, Joe Walsh, here to my immediate right, and the Roberto Lovato, another radical leftist over the left side here. They're two progressives, very progressive, very active citizen activists, and the work they're doing is much appreciated by me and from my other viewers who give me feedback about what we talk about, whatever you guys are on. So thanks again for coming on.
You're welcome.
Yeah, and I wanted to ask how you're doing, but I want to tell you right now that I was excited a little minute ago because I excited my director, and that makes me very upset if I get my director upset. I apologize, Mr. Director. He says, okay. How are you guys feeling?
What? I think we're doing pretty well.
Pretty well,
There's a lot of things going on. It's an interesting time to be alive, but it's also very, very scary sometimes.
Yeah. At the moment, you're mad, scared, glad, or any particular feeling going on inside of you?
I think I'm stunned.
Stunned. Wow. Roberto, can you
all,
top that?
I'm all of the above. Everything. Because my emotions are everywhere right now.
Yeah.
As Joe said, there's so much going on, and it's really impossible to watch everything and to know everything that is happening because so much is non-transparent. But the things that we do know are so intense, and it just for us to keep going on the streets and making our voices heard, so that some people know that about the issues and that there's somebody on the other side of whatever we're facing.
Yeah, but I hear what you're saying. In the last Oregon Progressive Party meeting we had, we were talking about so much stuff until we decided, hey, we need to tell the viewing audience locally and nationwide and around the world about things going on here locally and what's going on in Washington, D.C., because you guys really have the skin out and you work so darn hard at it, and I appreciate it. I can't say it enough. I can't praise you enough. Because you've been on before, probably a lot of the guests viewing this show, pardon me, a lot of the viewers have seen you before, so we were doing an abbreviated bio segment. The first half of the show typically goes with who you are personally, but this time we won't do it for the whole half hour. We're doing an abbreviated version, so we would have a lot of time to talk about all this stuff that's got you guys both all stirred up.
Okay.
All right, so you all know who I am. So,
Dr. Don, and we're thankful that you have this program for everybody to listen to all these issues and see all the different people that are on it.
So who's going to be first to tell our viewers who you are, an abbreviated version, just a general idea so the audience will know where you're coming from?
I'll go first then.
Sure.
Okay. Well, I view myself as what I am as a first-generation Mexican-American. I was born in Santa Barbara, California. And I guess mainly I've been involved with protesting different issues, and principally it started like in the time of the Vietnam War, and I've been consistently doing that ever since, and have been following the issues as they escalate and continue on from president to president. And I guess right now is a real full-blown picture of everything that has passed in that time frame is coming to a head right now, because I'm really, really, really concerned that our democracy is totally being taken from us.
So you spend a lot of your time nowadays working on issues relative to our democracy and social and progressive issues.
Yeah, it's all related to what happens in our community. In every community, it's the same set of circumstances, because it's so big that it affects everyone.
Do you have any Do you have any spare time in your life nowadays? Do you have any hobbies or anything you do that's other than your work?
I chauffeur my dog around. I work in the garden. I watch the bees. Take care of my fruit trees when I can, when I'm not involved in something else. But pretty much that.
You watch the bees.
Yeah, you know.
What do you learn watching bees?
That without them would be in really big trouble, and that's coming to a head as one of the big questions right now about our future, because the bees are disappearing.
Do you watch the birds too?
Oh yeah, we got hummingbirds, and I'm watering some stuff, and the hummingbirds like to come and sit on the hose while I'm watering. They like to take a bath, and you know, my dog Ruby, she's just a character. She's a 1-year-old golden retriever puppy, and she's just crazy. She loves it most when I squirt her with water on a hot day. She'll just go running around the yard and stuff. So and then I put a pond out for her so she can go swimming. So that's where I get my happiness. And my wonderful wife, who takes care of me.
She puts up with you all this time.
Oh boy, yeah,
Okay.
she does. So
shall we get some words from Lone Vet Joe? How come they call you Lone Vet?
I was on the bridge one day, and I was holding a sign that had to do with veterans benefits. And a woman came up to me and she said, "You're all alone. You're all by yourself." And I said, "Well, I'm the lone vet." And it just came out, and it just stuck. Because often I find myself sometimes on bridges and at different places with very few people. So it doesn't bother me. So I just took the nickname the Lone Vet, and I liked it. So that's how I came about the name. It was a woman who I never met, don't know her name, and she kept going. And she gave me the nickname, which is kind of interesting.
So you viewers out there, if one of you out there is the woman who gave Joe Walsh that nickname, Lone Vet, email me or email him and let him know that you've seen him mention, give her credit, okay?
That was about 10 years ago. So I have not been alone very often since.
Yeah.
I think the people of the United States are beginning to wake up and understand that we are in serious trouble. You know, not so much for me, not so much for you, but I look at my granddaughters who are 11 and 16, and I say, what kind of life are they going to have? How in God's name are we going to get them into college? How are they going to share in some of the stuff that you and I take for granted?
Yeah.
And that's what drives me every morning when I get up. And I just say, we are in serious, serious trouble.
And we'll talk about issues that justify your assumption that we're in serious, serious trouble.
Yes, all the way from the local issue, all the way to the President of the United States that runs around with a kill list in his pocket.
Wow. That
he is the one that will order somebody that he decides will die by the use of a drone. That's where we are. I mean, that's a long way from Eisenhower. That's a long way from Kennedy. Even Nixon wouldn't do the things that are being done now on a routine basis. And people accept it. We accept that the President of the United States can pick anybody they want and kill them. We accept that.
I'm afraid I don't think everyone accepts that. There are some who don't.
The problems that we're having right now is Obama is a very likable human being. When you watch him on television and you watch his cabinet on television, including Hillary Clinton, including the Defense Department, you like them. they seem like really nice people. He orders people that are going to be murdered in Pakistan, a sovereign country. We're not at war with Pakistan. We use weapons called drones that can go into Pakistan and kill people, and if somebody gets in the way, like a child or a woman or a minister or a priest or a rabbi, anybody that gets in the way, too bad. It's called collateral damage.
Why does he do that?
Because he can. Because Congress lets him do it. Because everybody wants him to succeed. Everybody wants so badly to have this man succeed and lead us into what we imagine the United States of America is. If you go on the streets of Portland and ask people, what is America? You may get a lot of different viewpoints, but you will get basically that we are a good people. And I'm here to tell you we are not. Our foreign policy are not good people. We kill people by the hundreds, by the thousands, by the millions. The United States of America.
Yeah.
And I served in the armed forces for 9 years. And I thought I was defending the Constitution of the United States, and I'm not.
How long have you been unhappy with the government of the United States?
Since 1969.
What happened then where you fell out of love with the United States government?
That's when we started to have the Pentagon Papers come out. That's when we started to have assassinations. That's when we started to have a little bit of information coming out of Vietnam that said something is wrong. And those of us that were in the military started to question what was going on. And then we had veterans, military veterans, come before the American people and say, we have committed atrocities in Vietnam. Americans. We were all so shocked. I mean, I was in the Navy, and I was standing on a destroyer when that information came out, and I said, what is that? That's not America.
How did America get to be this way, to behave this way on the world scene?
Well, there's a question that many of us are asking now. Is if we ever really have been the country that we think we are. And if you go back into our history and you look at what we did to the Native Americans when we first got here, we didn't do so good. We destroyed a lot of people that were here. There were 20 million Native Americans here when Columbus landed in the Caribbean.
Yeah. So what?
So from there to here, is it that different? And I think that's the important question that we need to ask ourselves. Is it that different? When Columbus landed in the Caribbean, because of him carrying diseases and because of the treatment of the Native Americans in El Salvador, millions of native indigenous people died.
That's been America's history, it looks like.
That's the beginning of our history, for that. That's 1492.
Okay. Now, from what you're saying, America has behaved unlovingly toward people other than Europeans and toward other people who they think are not as okay as Americans are. So what needs to be done now to have America behave the way it should to the rest of the world? What do we need to do?
Well, I think there are lots of people in the world and in the United States that are really trying to change what's happening. Some people think that the president is trying to change the ship of state, but it is so huge and so big that it is difficult to change. It's not a speedboat. You can't just change directions. When you change directions on this ship of state, it takes a long time. That's one argument. My argument would be, first we have to acknowledge the problems that we're having in equality, and we do it on a lot of different levels. So the president just came out and he talked about the equality of gay rights, which is a wonderful thing for him to do. That gays have a right to marriage and be happy. That's a wonderful thing for him to do, but at the same time, he is still killing people in Afghanistan, and everybody that has a brain in their head knows that we cannot win that war. Everybody knows, but nobody knows how to stop it.
Everybody knows? Then how come our government is doing it if everybody knows? That includes
Because of
government.
money. Because of the money.
Uh-huh.
You have to remember,
What about the money?
this chart, this shows you how much we spend on defense. These are the top 5 countries. You have the United States with the big line, you have China, you have Russia, you have England, and you have France, the top 5.
Yeah.
Look at our graph. Ours is 711 billion that we know of. Some people think it's over $1 trillion. That's the huge problem, that if we were to stop all wars tomorrow, we would go into a depression, because we can't do it economically. What would General Electric do? What would the Carlyle Group do? What would all of the manufacturers of bombs and landmines and missiles do? And what would their workers do? So the unions are terrified of stopping wars also, because they would lay off all their workers.
So you're unhappy with our country's behavior on the world scene today?
Yes, our foreign policy. We do some wonderful things
All right. Now,
in domestic.
Okay. What needs to be done? What can we say to our viewers that they can do to have America behave differently on the world scene?
First, I think the American people need to understand there's not a great deal of difference between the Republicans and the Democrats. And I know I'm going to alienate some people saying that. The Democrats are the lesser of two evils. You've heard that term used before. Well, it's true. The Republicans, their political system or party, have been taken over by measurable insanity. We can measure it. They are so insane. The Democrats are not willing to do the very things to counteract it. So the Republicans constantly override the Democrats. We just had the Wisconsin debacle, where we had hundreds of thousands of people in the street to bring down the governor and recall him, and we lost. Mm-hmm. And the reason we lost was the Democrats, not the Republicans. It was the Democrats that lost it.
Now, you're going to need to calm down a little bit, Joe. I see you're upset, because we want to sound halfway rational so our viewers don't shut off everything, okay?
Yeah. Okay.
Let's listen to Roberto a minute to let you calm down a bit.
Sure.
Well, on that same subject, I think that part of the problem is that you can remember in our history here not too long ago when the Democrats have always been called by the Republicans weak on defense.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And so I think that a lot of that energy and what Obama wants to be known as the commander-in-chief, and that he's going to be strong on defense, and he's buying his votes with that. Another thing that we need to do is we need to convert from a war economy, which we're living in right now, to a peace economy. And I can't answer how we're going to do that, but that's what we should think about, because our future depends on it. Because if we continue the same road we're down, the path we're down now, who knows what will transpire. One of the big things that Joe was talking about was the drones and the kill list. Well, now we're being informed that America is going to be flown over by 30,000 drones, keeping an eye on all of us, making sure that we're doing the right thing.
30,000 drones?
Yeah.
Where'd that come from?
Well, that came from the war economy. I mean, as Joe was saying, these people need jobs. The unions want people a job. So what do we come up with? We come up with drones, which are being used overseas to deal with our overseas problems. But now we have to take care of and control the people who live here, because there's serious inequality here now, because the oligarchs.
Wait a minute. I'm going to back you up a minute. Help me out here. We got to get some credibility with these things we're saying, because they sound pretty far out. You know, I agree with them by and large.
Yeah.
But the viewers need to know, where'd that figure come from? 30,000 drones flying over this country.
There's an article here from.
That's what I want.
I can't remember where it was from. What paper it was, but it's an AP by Joan Lowry. Talk of drones patrolling U.S. skies spawns anxiety. So it says the prospect that thousands of drones could be patrolling U.S. skies by the end of this decade is, I can't. You know, they're talking about Big Brother, and the worries mostly on the political margin, but the signs that ordinary people are starting to see that this is a critical thing. Right?
Did he mention that, you said 150,000?
No, that 30,000.
30,000.
Yes.
That's a big number. That's going to be hard for people to swallow.
So
I believe that we have drones now being used by some local governments, and they're planning to expand that as far as they can, so that Big Brother can indeed be watching us no matter where we are. But that's a pretty far-fetched idea to say right now there's 30,000 drones that are going to be flying over America.
Well, it fits in with the war economy.
If you think about all the police departments in all of the cities and all of the states in the United States, it's not a huge figure. It sounds, when you first hear it, you go, whoa. The police departments like these drones because they fly and they can stay up for 30 or 40 hours. And now they have drones that can be put in a backpack. They're not these huge things anymore. They're getting smaller and smaller and smaller. So the police departments are looking at them, and we have Homeland Security that will give you the money to buy the drones.
Excuse me.
So will our police department request that Homeland Security supply them with drones? Yes, they will, unless we stop them.
How do we stop them?
I think you start on a local level. I think you say to the people, look, these drones can take pictures from 6 miles up. 6 miles is about 30,000 feet.
Mm-hmm.
They can also fly at very low levels. So it's a unique weapon in the arsenal for police departments to spy on citizens. And the police department love these kinds of things.
Now, careful your language. Police department spying on citizens. There's an argument that says the police department wants to know what's going on with citizens, particularly those who are in areas where there's a high crime problem. How about surveillance by police departments and law enforcement of those areas?
We just had a battle here in Portland over the spy cams. Mm-hmm. That our police department had 5 spy cams that they got from someplace, We think it's from the Homeland Security people, because the chief of police says it's not going to cost us anything to put these up in Chinatown, and they're going to
That's
put them
here in
up
Portland, Chinatown here in
Yeah.
Portland.
They're going to put them up in Chinatown, and they say that they will only use the spy cams for drug deals and things like that. They make it very acceptable. However, those cameras run 24/7, just like your cameras will run for the next hour. The question is, who handles the film? Now, you trust your staff. However, the question is, do we trust our police department to be in control of that film?
Do you think we should not have the police department have the ability to have surveillance of high crime areas?
If it works. If you can show me that by using spy cams that we can get convictions of people that are selling heavy duty drugs and people that are involved in unlawful activity, then I would probably say, okay, the only thing that I would worry about is who handles the film, what's it going to be used for, and how do we control it? Because the human condition, and London and Tokyo and Chicago and San Francisco all have found out that if you leave these cameras to the police department, somebody in the police department being bored will start looking in people's windows. And that would be unacceptable even to the most conservative person in
So
the
you
United
think we
States.
shouldn't have that kind of surveillance of any of the population at all?
No, I think if you do it with lots and lots of control. So you have to say, okay, you have to get rid of the film every so often, whatever a reasonable amount of time, 7 days, 24 hours.
So who's going to pass those rules and be sure that they're enforced?
You and I.
How do we do that?
We go to the city council and we do what we did, and we petition the city council, and we got them to at least recognize that there is a problem of what happens with this film. And they say they've taken all the precautions. We'll see.
We'll see. All right, looks like we're about halfway through. The time is flying by. Let's take a little break, and then we'll come back and look at some of these questions we have on our cheat sheet, because we got ahead of ourselves here. Can we take a break there, Mr. E? All right, we are back, and let's see if we can calm down a little bit in the second half of the show and talk about some pressing issues that we agreed would be worth sharing with our viewers. And we have a name here, Cameron Whitten. Will someone tell the viewers who Cameron Whitten is? Whitten.
Cameron is a guy that's, I think, 21 years old. He is now on his 19th day of a hunger strike.
Well, before you go into that, what is he doing? Is he running for mayor of?
He ran for mayor in the primaries. There were 23 people that ran for mayor, and he was one of them. I think he did okay. He got his name out there, and that's what you normally do in the first time around. You get your name out there. So he got his name out there. But he's this wonderful human being that is not just going to sit back and say, okay, I ran for mayor, you know, I did my thing, now I'm going to go and veg for a while.
And he's a student, isn't he?
He's a student.
He doesn't work.
He goes to community college. Right now, he's sitting in front of City Hall on a hunger strike. And
Portland City Hall.
In front of City Hall. And he's there 24/7. And he's on his 19th day of not eating any solid food. He does take nourishment as far as liquid. And he has 3 demands. The first demand has to do with the people that are camping out not to be fined. So people that are living on the street find themselves that what happens is they get arrested and then they get fined, and they go through this whole craziness in the judicial system.
Here in Portland.
Here in Portland. He has another demand that he would like the city to put on the ballot for you and I to vote on, of whether we should supply enough money to house the homeless, which is kind of, I think, a noble idea. And the third one, he is asking the sheriff, which is separate from the city, to stop evicting people from their homes for 1 year. So we have all of these evictions going on right now where people are losing their homes. So he would like a moratorium. Some cities have already done that. So Portland, if they did that, would not be unusual. It would just be part of looking at the problem and saying, well, maybe this is a possible solution. Let's just take a break and try to figure out what happened, how we can help people in their homes that are losing them, that are in default, or what's called underwater, where you bought a $200,000 house and your house is only worth $150,000 now, so you owe more than the house is worth.
Sure.
So people are losing their homes over that. The big banks like Wells Fargo and Bank of America are not very sensitive to the whole concept. So that's one of his demands, is the sheriff just say, I'm not sending my sheriffs to remove people from their homes anymore for 1 year, and let the courts sort it out. Because there's indications that there is a lot of fraud going on with these loans. So people are being thrown out of their homes, and the actual paperwork of who owns the home is in question.
Do you think Cameron will have any luck in getting his responses to his demands?
Yes. And this is what normally happens with these things. Is Amanda Fritz, who's a commissioner
In Portland?
here in Portland, she's my favorite, by the way. I really kind of like her. Her and I disagree on a lot of stuff, but I really kind of like her.
She's been on the show before. I like her too.
Yes. She has come out and talked to Cameron. Leonard has just, in the last couple of days, come out and talked to him. Randy Leonard.
And what's his position?
He is also a commissioner.
Yes.
And we have Jefferson Smith, who is running for mayor and may be our next mayor. He talked to Cameron. Person that I did not support, but I'll give her a lot of credit, was Brady. Came down and talked to Cameron also. And Cameron really likes...
What, Brady?
Yeah, she's...
Eileen Brady.
Eileen Brady, is
Eileen
that her
Brady.
first name?
Yeah.
She ran for mayor and came in third. So she's not in the November ballot.
Election.
But she came and she took her time and she didn't have to do it. So I give her a lot of credit on that one. So what normally happens on these things is the system will not give you what you want, but it'll give you something. And they'll talk to you and they'll just say, okay, this is what we're doing, and try to do some stuff to get him off the hunger strike. So we'll see. Sam Adams is leaving
The mayor.
the mayor's position, so he hasn't even bothered to come out and talk to him. And you have to remember, he is right outside their building. So they're about 100 feet away from him every day. So to take 5 minutes or take 10 minutes to come out and say, okay, explain to me why you're here, that would be a human thing to do. And then we should do more of that. You know, we should be more human. And I fault the city council because they know there's something wrong. We know that we don't have enough beds to house everybody, that even when we have 100% occupancy in every avenue that people can get a bed to sleep in, we still have hundreds that are still sleeping on the streets. We don't have enough. And my hunch is that the city is terrified that if they make it too easy, we will be a magnet. So we will draw people from San Francisco. There is absolutely no proof of that anywhere. Nobody's ever done it. So, I mean, if we did that and we started to get people from San Francisco and all of a sudden we had this influx of people, that would be a new problem that we would have to resolve.
So Cameron has some terrific ideas about what needs to happen to make life more livable for our citizenry here in Portland.
Yes. The good news is, and I know I started your program with very negative stuff. The good news is there are tens of thousands of people like Cameron all throughout the United States. You're one of them. Roberto is one of them. Your camera crew are volunteers. They're one of them. Everybody is doing their little thing to make life better for the other. The other is outside yourself. So that's what Cameron does. He's 21 years old. When I was 21 years old, I was in the Navy. I was in Naples.
Stop slapping your mic.
Okay. I was in the Navy in Naples at 21. I didn't know anything about anything. And here Cameron is dealing with concepts that are very sophisticated, very complicated.
He's way ahead of his age.
But he's asking the right questions. He's asking the city council, why are people living on the streets?
We're with you, Cameron.
So he's one of my heroes.
All right.
That's why we supported him in the Oregon Progressive Party for mayor, because it was a new person, a new profile, a young person being involved in the
And that's what we
business of
need.
the day.
I think you asked us before, how do we solve this problem? Well, one way to solve it is to send new people to Washington, D.C. We need citizen representatives. We don't need politicians. We don't need people that will make a career out of being in Washington, D.C. We have people there, some of them I like, that have been there for 40 years.
All right. So let's move on, because we're not going to cover even 1/10 of the things we plan to talk about. What is going on in Egypt? And I'm talking about right now because it may be different than it was 3 hours ago. Let's talk about that. What's going on in Egypt?
Very fluid.
Let's have a little history about what's happening in Egypt in the past year or so.
More about it because you were.
We all know about the hundreds of thousands of people that gathered in the square in Egypt.
In Tahrir Square.
Tahrir Square. Out of that, the dictator Mubarak was taken down, and he's standing trial right now. There was just an election last weekend, and it looks like that the military are backing this one candidate and they are declaring victory. The people are regathering in the square. So it's very fluid, and you're absolutely right. Nobody knows where this is going. Now, officially, the United States has indicated to the military, do not steal this election. Allow the people democracy. That's our official position. And I really would like to see us go through with that a long time.
That's his official position?
Yes.
What's his unofficial position?
We like dictatorships. And the reason we like dictatorships
We being
is
America?
it's consistent. Yes, it's consistent. And in the Middle East, what we want is consistency. So if we have Mubarak was there for how long? 30 years?
Something like that.
We like that. Our industrial complex likes that. We like this consistency. Will we change our ways this time around? I hope so. I keep hoping, that
I have a summary opinion about it. I was just watching Amy Goodman today on Democracy Now! That's a wonderful program, wonderful show, Democracy Now!
yes, it is.
And she was interviewing a reporter, I can't think of his name now, he's Egyptian, and talking about what's going on in Egypt today. And he talked about the history as we're doing now in more detail than we are, because that's his profession. And it seems the last two things that the people voted on, this military has decided to nullify them or overrule them, and such that there's been no substantial change in the form of government since the revolution started. And even though the population voted, the military council commission has overruled the votes. So what's the use in voting anymore? And I guess they were questioning whether or not the U.S. should still send its billions of dollars a year to Egypt to fund democracy. But the U.S. has not stopped sending this money. My own personal thought is, with my paranoid belief system, is that the U.S. is interested in not having substantial change in any of the countries in the Middle East, because the U.S. wants to dominate that whole region. And the U.S. is letting that money go into this military council because pretty soon there'll be no substantial change in Egypt, and the military again will run the country like they did under Mubarak. And I wonder if the people are going to sit still for it. What with the availability of information anymore, with the internet and all sorts of things like that going on, I'm just terrified and angry at what's going on. So
That's why they're regathering into the square. I think in the next couple of days we'll see which way this pendulum swings. And my fears are exactly in line with yours. That I just my hopes and my prayers are that we will see democracy flourish in Egypt, and the United States would back that democracy, and we would keep all the I think it's $1.4 billion that we give to Egypt every year. So it's a lot of money.
your hopes and your prayers.
My hopes and my prayers are with the people in the square.
Come on, lone vet. What has history shown in the past 200 years? Your hopes and prayers are that going to make things, the U.S. give up its attempt at maintaining its empire in the Middle East and the entire world for that matter? Help us
It's
out,
foolish.
Roberto.
Well, I'm hoping the people will stand up too, because this is a major situation here. So the people fought for the first phase. Now they're in the second phase, and are they going to continue, or they're just going to let it collapse into the same old thing? So it's a serious point.
There's a new element here. There's an outraged population who are more aware of what's been going on. And it's going to take something like what's going on in Syria, which we'll talk about next, to maybe have the military give up its power and return to civilian rule. But that'll happen only if the CIA gets next to the civilians who might take over the government. But okay, I'm more pessimistic than you.
Yeah, I want to be optimistic here.
I
I have hope for the people that something will happen that will be different.
Okay, let's
this
move
time
on.
around.
Let's move on to Syria. What's going on in Syria?
Well, Syria is a mess because the United States is supporting the rebels that are in Syria, and we don't particularly like the dictator that's in Syria, and we've never gotten along with him and his family, and he received the blessings of his father, and it was passed down very much like a king.
Can I disagree with you?
Sure, of course.
I think history shows that the U.S. Has liked that dictatorship all these years, because he wouldn't be having his difficulty now if the people hadn't rebelled against him. So how many years has the U.S. been supporting this guy, going along with his dictatorship, calling it democracy? So I disagree with you.
The United States will support dictators up to a point.
Yeah,
Now, Saddam Hussein from Iraq
yeah.
was our buddy. We loved him
Oh, yes.
until he ticked us off, and then we took him down. The same thing happened in Egypt. We watched Mubarak be taken down. He was our buddy for a long time.
Of course.
So there's this schizophrenic thing that happens in our foreign policy that you have to know as a dictator when the United States is going to turn on you. And I think we've turned in Syria. I think we see the possibility of the rebels winning in Syria, therefore we're backing the rebels.
The U.S. will turn against the dictator when it sees that there is resistance to the dictator and they're about to topple that dictator. Then the U.S. will go with the rebels, and along the way, in the process, somehow or other co-opt them so that the rebels will then have policies that are pleasant to the U.S. administration.
But we're facing another issue, a mini Cold War, because all of a sudden they've thrown Putin and Russia into the whole mix. So, and it's seeming that Russia, via Putin, is supporting the Syrian dictatorship that's in place now. So, and that, you know, with their background on sort of defending the Iranian position, is setting us up for I don't know what, but it'll be major.
We got to look beyond that. Is Russia and China saying, no, we cannot let the U.S. imperialists dominate the Middle East? Are they overlooking the fact that Assad is a tyrant? Because it's now a geopolitical thing, worldwide influence. That's what I'm thinking may be going on there.
Well, we also owe China a lot of money. So China has a lot to say to us about what we do. If you owe me money, I have a lot to say on how you live your life until you pay me back, and we're on equal footing. But if you owe me money, you don't particularly want to see me on Tuesday because you may have to give me some money. So the United States is always under the gun with China as long as we owe them money.
That's a whole new subject, the U.S. and China
But
relationship.
that's all the stuff that's going on in the UN right now.
And I'm thinking what's going to be happening not too long in the future when we find some sort of a way to default or to do away with the debt we owe to China. I don't put anything past the leadership in my country.
Can I maybe freshen up a little bit on this? I'm concerned about the youth in America today.
Of course.
And I think that the crunch that they're under, because we've seen like Cameron and some pretty inventive young people, and I'm hoping that they can grab a hold of it and create a whole new system within the system, because the old system is so decadent and it's putting the pressure on everybody that the young people are getting squeezed. And I'm hoping with their ingenuity and the stuff that they will create something new and refreshing and a whole new way of their own business profiles and the cooperative movement and the workers own their own businesses, because we need some new things, not the corporate model.
How can the youth do what you're talking about when the system has arranged it such that they will be in hock for their student loans until they're 90 years old, Roberto? Help me out here.
They're pretty creative. I mean, you have to remember that the internet has created, or things have been created out of the internet and that system that nobody had ever thought of except for these young creative minds who have done stuff. So
it's going to be pretty miraculous to be able to find some magical way
well,
to
we
pay
have
off
to
those
have hope,
loans.
and I want to have hope for the youth because I understand that some of them are very intelligent and very creative. So with what is coming to us, we have to have a positive outlook. I've got a hope for them.
Okay.
So, I mean, we have to have some positive elements, as you said earlier. So we can't just be like negative. So we have to have something for the positive outlook for our future.
So then,
and us old guys supporting them.
I'm not
That's
old.
a great word.
You're speaking for Joe.
That's a great word. Support them. Don't dictate to them. Support them.
Yeah. So, what's going to happen in November in the election for the president? Is Romney going to win?
No.
You
I think
sure?
Obama is going to win. I won't vote for him, but I think I'm in the minority on this one.
I won't either. Who are you going to vote for?
I don't know. I'm looking at Rocky Anderson. I'm about him.
Yay! Justice Party, USA.
Yes, it's an interesting concept in the Justice Party. It's almost mimicking the Oregon Progressive Party. A lot of our positions are pretty similar. So I would like to see Rocky Anderson do well. But until the American people understand that if they keep sending these same people back over and over and over again, we're never going to get anywhere. And we're just going to keep spiraling down. So you're right. The kids coming up now trying to go to college are now in debt $1 trillion. $1 trillion. And they want to double it. The GOP is working to double the interest on the loans. So they're going to put them in hock, $2 trillion? Mm-hmm. Which would just wipe out more and more students. So you're concerned about, how do we get our young people educated and into positions of decision making when they can't afford college. Mm-hmm. It's a huge problem.
What about the Occupy movement? What's going to happen to the Occupy movement?
I think the Occupy movement has already won.
Wow, you got to say some more on that one. How do you mean they've already won?
Because they didn't have what you and I.
Excuse me.
They're not limited by what we do. We set goals. We say this is victory, this is defeat. They don't do that. What they do is they just keep going along. And it's like watching this wonderful river, of ideas just unfolding. I mean, they have people in Portland right now that are working on a people's budget. Now, they're not going to go before the city council and say, we don't like the way you're spending our money. What they're going to say is, we don't like the way you're spending our money, and here's a possible alternative. And they just keep rolling along.
Is there a revolution going on now?
Yes. It's non-violent, thank God. But there is a revolution going on.
That occupies the young people's creativity.
Uh-huh.
That's
They
the
created
inspiration
it.
behind it.
Well, talking about creativity, they're going to create some lumps on my head if I don't wind down, because it's almost time for us to stop now.
Oh, man.
So let's get ready to say goodnight. Keep those pens and pencils handy out there in case we say something in the closing credits. I'll be showing you something in the closing credits that you want to make note of. Thanks for watching, and some public service announcements. To get the Dr. Don local broadcast schedule, go to my website, www.donbam.com, and click on Present Day Activities for the broadcast schedule. Next public service announcements. To watch my show on the web, go to my website again and click on Favorite Links. There's a whole bunch of shows, old shows and new shows that you can watch. Next, we have the ACLU, the American Civil Liberties Union. Without the ACLU, our civil liberties would be in worse shape than they are now, and they are being threatened more and more by this administration. Go to the ACLU. It's a great organization for protecting our civil liberties. What else do we have to tell these folk about now? To get my shows broadcast by other stations around the country, ask your local public access station to go to www.pegmedia.org to learn how they can pick up my shows and broadcast them in their local area. And we have one more, I think, coming up here to end corporate personhood. That's my favorite nowadays. We've got to end corporate personhood. Go to that website and learn how we can work on ending corporate personhood and overcome the Supreme Court decisions, Citizens United. Corporations running our country and own our country, we need to take it back. All right, what else do I got to say to you? Is that it? Okay, I got to tell you about KFC. Thanks for watching. And remember KFC, not that KFC, Dr. Don's KFC. Kind, friendly, and charitable. Be kind, be friendly, and be charitable to you too. And you. And you, Lone Vet. And you, Norm. And you, Control Room. And you, Mr. E, our director.